avoid it. The third pair. This is one thing that really you have to remind kids. This is something you have to learn. Because Rebbe said that not only he was learning each parak 101 times, he was learning each word 101 times. Like every word. Fa'avoide el Hashem yisborach asher yesh liYisrael begelusam shu b'chol mokem hu tefillah. That's very, very strong, Yeah. You see, we always look at that when we were in the Holy Temple, it was good. And now we're in exile, it's bad, right? It's not a question of good and bad, it's a completely different thing. The thing is, if you're a servant of God, that means you have all kinds of jobs, right? When you're in Israel, this is the kind of a job you have to do. And when you're in exile, you have a different job, right? It's the whole thing. The only thing is you have to... Exile is not so bad, If you do the job in exile, then it's not so bad, Let's say if I was before a shoemaker, now I'm a tailor. If I'm a good tailor, so I'm a good tailor now. Only bad thing is, if I cannot, shift my energies of coming from a What's that? Sounds good. Oi. Okay. Anybody wants to repeat what I said fast with the Maharal says here? Who does you want to go over it?
This is the difference between being in Jerusalem and having Israel and being in exile isn't like the difference between good and bad, but it's just different things. We just have different jobs to do.
Right. Very strong. So he says something very strong. What is a major? So the Maharal says, for this you got to be mamish super holy to say such things. He says the most important thing in exile is that when you are in the time of the Holy Temple, your most important thing is Torah. When you're in exile, since you are in exile, the most important thing is davening. It's very good.
When you're in citizen?
When you are not in exile, then the most important service is learning. And when you're in exile, how do you get out of exile regardless? The most important thing in exile is davening, praying. Meaning to say, God puts you in exile in order to make your davening stronger.
There's one time you said like the altar, you said like davening is like a place, it's like a house.
Yeah, that's also... You know that Alter Rebbe, the Tanya is mamish literally based on the Maharal's form. You know that? Do you know that? In the Akdom of Tanya it says, Melukit mipisforim v'sayfrim. It's taken together from books and from holy rabbis, For the books, he meant the books of the Maharal, and the rabbis, he meant about Shem and the Mezeh Shemayim, So the truth is, do you know the Alter Rebbe was mamish like the fourth grandson of the Maharal, Mamish ben Chaben, yeah. The Maharal was mamish from Malchus Bes David, mamish son after son from King David, So, like, the truth is, Friedrich always said the Maharal mamish like prepared the world for the coming of the Baal Shem, Because it's mamish, anything which Chassidus says is actually written already in the Maharal, But it's a bit in a hidden way. Okay. So it's very strong to remember, whenever you feel yourself sinking into exile, that means God wants you to daven better, All the rest of it. Okay, per Kama de Tanis, it says, La'avas Hashem le'keichem u'la'ovdoi. We say, and Voyim Shmuel, La'avas Hashem le'keichem to love God, u'la'ovdoi, and to serve Him b'chol levavcha v'chol nafsha. So the Gemara says, what is avodah shebelev? What means to serve God with all your heart? That means pray. So he says, why is serving God called prayer? Isn't everything the service of God? When I do a mitzvah, am I not serving God? And when I learn, am I not serving God? Why is prayer called service? So he says, "Katfila shemispalaot on Hashem Yisborach When I pray, I put myself, or I realize that I need God. This real service is not just I do something, let's say, this is really very beautiful. If I do a mitzvah, I do God's will, this is not called real service yet. Real service is when I realize that He is the only one who can help me. Mamash, I need Him. That's called real service. This is very strong. That means when I daven, it's not just asking God for my needs, but mamash davening means I should be mamash completely with it to know that I need God. And without God, I'm not living. Every ounce of life I have, every bring of strength, it's just from God. What does it mean? What is God in this world? How does God make Himself manifest in this world? Because God makes Himself manifest in such a way, what means God in this world? That means God is sustaining the world. Everybody needs God, right? This is what God is. He says, to fear God or to love God is not really service of God. I love God because He's God, and I fear God because He's so great, right? But davening is something else. Davening means that mamish know I need Him. I'm hanging on to Him. He says like I'm hanging on Him, and that's hanging. This one hand, there's nothing below here, right? I'm just hanging on this one hand, This is my hand. If I let go, that's it, So when I daven, I'm just holding on because I'm not holding on to Him. That's the end. Because a person is to know, the hardest thing in the world is to know that I'm not self-existing. You know how hard it is to realize that I'm not self-existing, It's possible to study, to do all the mitzvahs, and deep down, I'm still thinking a little bit I'm self-existing. To daven means to get this completely out of my heart, to know I'm mamish not self-existing. I'm mamish, my existence comes from God. And not only my existence comes from God, all my needs also. This is very, very strong. I can still maybe get to the point and say, God gives me all my needs. But just to get down a bit deeper, really to admit to myself, or to admit to God that He is my whole existence, takes a lot of breaking down in my head. So then he says the only way the closest one can get to God is not this learning, I was doing its mitzvahs, because even if I do everything He wants me to do, if I'm still thinking deep down I'm self-existing, I'm not close to Him. But when I'm on the level I know that I'm not self-existing, I'm only existing because He gives me life, this is the closest I can get to Him. Therefore, he says, the real service, the real like giving myself over to God, is when I daven. Anybody wants to tell me this back? It's really good stuff, And a few kids? Uh-huh.
The job or the service of the person in Exile is davening.
Yeah.
And
I'll help you with that. It says that real service of God is called davening. The Gemara says, so of there is a pasuk, the pastor said, to serve God with all your heart. The Gemara says that means praying. So he says, why is just praying called service with all your heart? Well, everything is called service with all my heart. If I'm studying and if I'm keeping Shabbos, it's also serving God with all my heart. So why is just praying called serving God? Keep on going. You started saying it right, yeah?
then I remember what you're saying about the adopting is a way of holding on.
Yeah.
But there was, my memory is...
Okay, so how about it?
Between that.
Okay, David, you know what's in between?
The difference between prayer and everything else, and prayer you have to know that the existence depends on God.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. You can do everything else and still really believe that you're self-existing. But in prayer, that's when you know that you're hanging on God with just one hand. And then whatever life you have is because of God.
This is called real service. Because the closest I can get to God is if I know how much I need Him. It's very strong. Even between people, if I don't need this person, if I need this person very much, I'm getting close to that person, right? If I know that not only I need this person for my needs, I need God for my very life, for my very existence, this is the strongest, the closest I can get to God. So therefore he says, real service of God is called davening. Okay, what tefillas so elo shetiknu hem sholish tefillas, and the prayers which they fixed for us are three prayers: tefillas Shacharit, tefillas Minchah, tefillas avraham. So he says, why are those three? So he says like this: it says you should love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. So the Gemara says, what means with all your heart? Means even with your evil drive, with all your heart. With all your soul means even if it takes away your soul. With all your mind, even with all your money. So he starts saying like this. He starts saying in the morning, he said in the morning it's very hard to get up. Because at night, he says the only thing which is like, but my body is completely working when I'm sleeping also, My body is functioning while I'm asleep, right? It's only that my soul is not complete in my body, right? So in the morning when I wake up, to serve God, that means like the soul is becoming stronger than my body, right? Because my body still wants to sleep. Who's enjoying sleep the most? My body, right? Because my body is like resting. And he says, I'm most physical, non-soul, when I sleep. Maharal is very strong in that. So when I wake up in the morning and I overcome that sleep, that means I'm turning over, I'm non-physically my body, so to speak. I'm making my body soul-like. So he says, this is very beautiful, he says, in the morning when I wake up, and I begin to daven, what I do, I'm serving God with my body. It's very strong. Because I'm overcoming my sleep and I'm davening, with that I'm meshabit, I'm like enslaving, not enslaving, that's the right word. How do you say meshabit? I'm making my body into a servant of God. And then he says, Minchah is a time when everybody's running around to make a few rubles. So then, during the day, when I tear myself away from the money, and I daven, that means b'chol moedem, right? That's really sweet, That means I'm tearing myself away from all the money, and I'm serving God with all my money, right? That's really very deep. What happens to you in the evening, it's not so much like your soul is really there, in a certain way. Like your soul is really there. You did already your work all day, and your soul already it's nothing, So what happens to you at night? He says, because at night, because at night you feel that how much you destroyed your soul during the day. And the soul can't stand it. Because it says, why am I so tired? Why am I getting so tired after all my day's work? Because I realize how much I cut my soul into pieces during the day. So my soul just can't stand it anymore here. And my soul knows I have to go back up there in order to fix myself. So at night is a time of soul fixing. I know it, Gotta go back to God up there and fix my soul. So therefore, at night when I daven, I'm serving God as my soul. I'm giving my soul over to God. So he says, in the morning I serve God with all my heart, which says even with my evil. He says, my evil is strongest in my body, right? Not so much in my soul. So it says, in the morning when I wake up and I get out of the sleep in order to daven, with that I'm serving God with my body. In the afternoon when I daven Minchah, I tear myself away from all my business. I'm serving God with all my possessions, all my money. And at night when I know that the only way that I could fix my soul again is by giving it back to God, and I daven Maariv, that means I'm beginning to serve God with my soul. What? Because the whole thing says even with your evil, the whole is all. It means even with your evil. It means where the evil is strongest in my body, right? Because you see, according to the Maharal, evil doesn't mean evil. According to the Maharal, means to be physical or to be spiritual. That's according to the Maharal. Goes through all his books, Non-spiritual is evil. So in the morning when I overcome my sleep and I daven, it means I'm making myself spiritual. Well, come join me.
Something like the evening prayer, something like the Shabbos in the day.
Yeah. Oh, it's pretty good, Because I stopped working at night, so I was a little bit on the Shabbos level. It's pretty good. Yeah, it's really good stuff. Yeah, it's really good, Lena. Yeah?
Is that like fathers? Like,
what?
Is avraham like is connected to fathers?
Which one?
Is that connected to fathers? Like was avraham?
Your Tapman problem, because he's just going to talk about it right this minute. Oh, you remember from the Gemara, because we're learning that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, how do they fit into this whole thing? So now he starts saying like this. Alright, this is mamish deep. Listen to this. Well, then he starts saying like this. But he says the truth is that he says whatever I said till now, he says, doesn't reach into the depth what the holy rabbis tell us that Shacharit was initiated by Abraham, Minchah by Yitzchak, and Maariv by Yaakov. He says because you have to understand what does it mean that avraham initiated Shacharit, Minchah, Maariv. He says, you mean all the people till Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob didn't pray? That's impossible. Everybody was praying. He says, you mean to tell me that... Sure. He says, how can you live without prayer?
Thousands of people live without prayer.
They don't really live according to him.
Did Abraham deliver the first prayer?
Live with the first prayer for other people, for Sodom, But this is already like a Chassidische Torah, the Maharal goes straight thinking, tremendous, Although it's a little Chassidus also in Kabbalah, but the Maharal is like everything. So he starts saying like this. You have to realize, he says, why are they called Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov? Why are they called the fathers of the world? Because they are mamash the fathers of the world. They are mamash the fathers of the world. What does it mean? My father, it means it's my beginning, right? They are my beginning. So he says like this, therefore he says it's very strong, the beginning of Israel is Abraham. Like Shachris, right? Shachris, he says, it's really deep, He says, why are our fathers are not called holy people or tzaddikim? They're called overs. They're the fathers. Because in the same way, as much as I know when I pray, I know I need God, but I'm completely hanging on God, right? I completely need Him. He says, it's really very deep. I want you to think of it very, very deep. He says that the one who felt most how much he needs God was Abraham. Because Abraham was the very beginning of Israel. And at the very beginning you feel it the most, Imagine if someone gives me something, when do I feel it the most that he gives me something? When he's giving it to me, at the beginning. So since Abraham is the beginning of Israel, Abraham was the one who felt the most how much we need God. And since Abraham was the beginning of Israel, he is like the morning. So Abraham is the strongest on feeling the beginning. He says that something very deep, I want you to think of it very strong. He says, Avraham Avinu is the beginning of the day, and Yitzchak is when the day ends, which makes the day the completeness of the day. So Yitzchak, because Yitzchak is like the completeness of the day, and Yitzchak is hanging on to God with the completeness of the day. He taught us Tfilas Minchah. And now Yaakov is like the end of the world. Yaakov knows you're hanging on to God even with the end. So like, I don't know, did I say it in such a way that you should feel how deep it is in a certain way? There is such a thing as beginning and like the end of the beginning, the fullness, and then there's such a thing as endless, infinite, endless, This is Yaakov. So the night is like to the end of the world, Because at night, I even feel more harm in the hands of God in a much deeper way than during the day. Because at night when I know I'm giving my soul back to God, this is even more, this is a deeper kind of thing. I'm just giving Him completely my soul and I'm going to give it back to me, This is like the end of the end of the end, like infinite trust, in God. During the day, even with all the holiness of Abraham, who knows the beginning, and Yitzchak, who knows the secret of the fullness of the day, the end of the day, but Yaakov is even deeper. The night is even the deepest depths, that I'm completely trusting Him, I'm giving Him my soul back. Because Yaakov Avinu, since he was the last of the three, he was like really the utmost of trusting God. Because nobody knew how much he's in the hand of God like Yaakov. This is the deep thing.
When you're in exile, you have to daven. So that you know that
pretty
you're
good,
mostly, that you're really in the hands
pretty
of God.
good, yeah. Good stuff, yeah. That's pretty good, yeah. Kids, am I making myself clear a little bit, or half and half? Half and half. Then it says, I don't want to say too much because it's too deep to talk about. This is very beautiful. So he says, therefore, he says, the best time to daven is right from the beginning of the day. Therefore, the tzaddikim daven when the sun comes out. Because since Shacharit is the beginning, that I'm hanging on to God as my beginning, I have to daven at the beginning of the day. If I can mamish daven right at the beginning of the day, then I daven real good. And then, Tfilas Minchah is when the sun goes down, when the day is the completeness of the day. Because I know that God is my completeness, not only in my life, it's very, very deep, when you think of it, very deep. Not only I'm hanging on to God, God gives me life, If there's any completeness, you see, you have to realize one thing, that in completeness of holiness, Yitzchak was tough, right? Because in completeness of holiness, because Yitzchak was mamish like he was lying on the altar all his life. He never came down. Remember I told you? Remember we were learning the Shmisha Kedusha, the Shmisha Mitzvah this morning? So Yitzchak Avinu, since he was on the altar, he was always a Shmisha Kedusha, So he never did anything for his own pleasure, because he was also Banoi,
He was what?
He was mamish also Banoi. He was like hektish. He was not allowed to use himself, because he considered himself still being holy. Like on the altar, Remember, it's more like Kiddush, you're not permitted to use it for your own purposes. So he considered his body being so holy, so he was not permitted to do anything for his own, whatever he did was mamish in the service of God,
He was belonging to Kiddush.
Yeah. Like the Shmisha Kiddush, remember learning this morning? So let's say Yitzchok never ate because he wants to eat, because that means he's also Banoi, So he was only eating because God wants him to live. So he ate exactly as much as he needs to live, Or sleeping, he slept exactly as much as he needs to live, I mean, we have no conception of this kind of holiness, beyond us. But Yitzchok in completeness, there's such a thing as being complete. I just want you to listen to it in a very deep way. There's such a thing as beginning, then there's such a thing as complete, and there's such a thing as forever, endless. It's beyond complete, beyond beginning. This is Yaakov, like always, forever, I'm trusting even to give him back my soul, It's deeper even than my beginning or my completeness. Just completely given to God. This is Yaakov. Because at night, the world feels even more so that mamish the whole world is in the hands of God. You feel it more at night. Because at night is the time when you give your soul back to God. So when the night comes down, there's something going on in the world feels I'm really in the hands of God. And this is what Yaakov Avinu taught the world. So Yitzchak Avraham Avinu taught the world the beginning, that my very beginning comes from God. Yitzchak taught the world that my completeness comes from God. And Yaakov Avinu taught the world I'm completely in the hands of God. And again he says, I can't say anything more because it's too deep. It's really sweet. The Maharal says it every 2 minutes, Because if some of you kids are complaining that I always say it's so deep, I want you to know that it's strange, Maharal every two lines it says, oh, I don't want to say anything more, it's too deep. Can anybody tell me just what we said now? Because it's real beautiful deep thought. Anybody wants to repeat it? Any of you kids? Does anybody understand how does what he said before this go together? Yeah.
The Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob,
Yeah. Only for Yaakov, yeah.
That the davening that they gave to us, the morning davening of the sweetness of the day, and the davening at night.
Yeah.
Well, that's in general what we were trying to say.
Now how does it go together, what he said before, that in the morning I make my body spiritual, in the afternoon I get out from my money, and at night I give my soul back to God. You see the connection? And then, yeah, a little bit? This is really super deep. Yeah.
You're in the beginning. Realize you needed God, how much, how empty you are without God.
Yeah.
So you're calling on Him. Build your soul strong for the day. And during the day you work till your soul is. Then when you can, your soul is not quite what you want it to be. But you say, I'm so proud of everything that I have. Then at night, you're giving your soul back to God to be renewed again. And you don't know if you're going to get it back in the morning and the day after that.
Yeah, I know what you say, but how does it go together with the three things? Let me just tell you over again. I know you're 100% right in your Louise, but I just want to put it together a bit stronger. First he says, the Shacharit in the morning is when I have to overcome my sleep, and I have to make my body spiritual. That means I have serving God with all my heart, even with my evil, which according to the Maharal, there is no evil in the world. It's only to be completely physical or to be more spiritual. It's good or evil, So in the morning, I work on myself to become more spiritual. That's Abraham. The first one who made the world spiritual, Okay, so in the afternoon, I'm getting out of the money, because I'm sitting and doing business all day, and I'm tearing myself away, and I daven. This is b'chol ma'adecha. And at night, when I give my soul back to God, it's b'chol nafshecha. It takes away my soul. This is one side of the coin. On the other side, he says that there's such a thing as beginning, there's such a thing as complete, and then there's such a thing as totally. So how does the three things get together? I mean, those two sides. How do they get together?
When you wake up in the morning, that's like a complete beginning.
Yeah, it's so tell it strong, so tell it strong.
Waking up in the morning is a new beginning, like you're a new person. And like Abraham he was completely beginning a whole new thing that no one had ever done before. And it's like...
It's also getting away from the body, getting away from evil and starting. That's strong, that's Abraham,
And...
Yitzchak?
Yitzchak was in Israel the whole time. It was just
so how does it correspond with the money, what he said, b'chol ma'adecha?
Because, the way the world works, the world really works on money, and the world really on body and stuff, and Yitzchak just tore himself away, and he said, my body, I'm going to use it for like money is like a little bit of like our body, and like we serve God with it, but he just took his whole body and we served God with it. Like just really using like the strength that you live on.
You know what I thought? That it doesn't sound so strong to what you say. It's much as I love you. It's good, but it's not 100%. You know what I thought? What, according to the world, what is complete? According to the world, complete means if I have money, right? That's what the world calls complete. And Yitzchak taught the world complete means complete, to be completely out of that. Because what makes it, listen, if I have no money, I'm a beggar, I'm a schlep in the world, right? And Yitzchak gets out of this whole thing because Yitzchak says, I think it makes more sense, no? A little bit. I don't know if this is 100%, but there got to be something. Or anybody want to say something better? What?
I'm thinking a little bit, you said it was always in Israel. I'm like, when you're in Israel, you have to think a little harder. And you have to really stop and forget that you're in Israel for a few minutes and put yourself in exile so that you can really get close to God.
Yeah.
And like, when you're making your money, you're really completing you're really completing your worldly thing. And you have to put yourself in exile from it for a while and get back to God. Instead of being so wrapped up in what's with you.
You mean, because Yitzchak was always in Israel, he's the one who helped us to get out of exile back to Israel. It's a pretty good thought. It's pretty good, you know?
I know, it seems like...
I know what you mean. But a little bit like Adina said, but you said about money, Adina said about the body, but either way it's good. Anybody wants to say something else on this? Because it's an open field.
Suffering was ḥeshek.
Yeah.
So he's giving his heart to everyone.
Yeah.
One is going to put more Gevurah, as you know, all his strength.
Yeah.
He's giving all his might, all his
Oh, that's pretty good, you know? That's really good, you know? That's more complete, because Gevurah is really completeness of Chesed. Chesed like a little bit like just giving, it's not complete yet. That's pretty good, that's tough, yeah. Yeah, he's tough. Pesach is in tough form tonight. Yeah, and what about Yaakov?
That was the completeness of the two of those.
Yeah. Totality, the real completeness, yeah. Even deeper than complete, that's true, yeah. Because beauty is more than complete, yeah. Beauty comes from another world. Huh. That's really good stuff, Petro.
Say it again. Say it strong.
Yeah, okay. Knock it up again. Only Petro.
Avraham's, can you talk about Avraham, his quality was always ḥeshek, loving kindness. He was always giving everything he had to everyone. And that's sort of giving your heart, and you give your heart to everyone. So that's the beginning of the name. And then Yitzchak was Gevurah, which is the other side of ḥeshek, which is strong might. Would be the end of the day, when the sun's going down. He served for his might. And then Yaakov was Tiferet, which is beauty. And that's really the soul. Really, just beyond it. That's the nighttime when it's soul.
That's tough, you know? Got to say so myself. It's really good stuff. Huh. But kids, do you hear what you're learning again a little bit? Not so much. There are 3 levels. The beginning, completeness, and then there's something which is even deeper than complete and beginning, because it's mamish like, how would you say it, mamish, like totally given away, you know? Like the way the soul knows God. Not as beginning that is complete, but much deeper. But anyway, the whole idea is that, like, you cannot be born without a father, right? So in Chassidus it says very strong that you cannot be a Jew unless you have the 3 fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Unless you have those 3 prayers of Shacharit and Maariv, you cannot be a Jew. So this is really very beautiful, you know, it really shines a little bit stronger, you know. You have to have this relating to God from your beginning, you know, my beginning is from God. And you have to know that my completeness is from God. And you have to know that, like, even beyond beginning and complete, like I'm ready to give my soul back to God. So, I'm completely in the hands of God, even deeper. Not my completeness, but I'm completely in the hands of God. The whole world is this Yaakov. Deep stuff, Okay. Hold it, something else now. Listen, thank you for reminding me there's good stuff, Does it turn you on, kids?
Yeah.
Or half and half? Half and half?
It's good. Yeah.
Turns me on, what?
It's good.
Good stuff, yeah?
We should do different.
How does it turn you on, Lena? Good or bad in between? Yeah? Yeah?
Can you think of the distinction between complete and total as Jacob being the third son and an aspect of rejuvenation in the ninth poem?
Yeah, that's something like this, yeah. Yeah.
It comes around at the beginning, which makes it total.
Yeah, you see, it's more than total. Yaakov is more than total, more than complete. But I have no words for it, There is no word to say it properly, Because whatever we'll say, it won't be enough, It's beyond all this.
It's sort of out of page repetition. I mean, the fact that it's at night, it's almost akin to Abraham, but it's another time.
Because he goes back to the beginning the next morning.
He makes the way for Abraham.
That's pretty good. That's a new thought. That's pretty good.
Because we begin in the night, no?
True.
Our beginning is in the night.
What's your first name?
Daniel.
Daniel, yeah. That's a pretty deep thought, That means that on a certain way, if you start from Jacob, it's even more than beginning because the night prayer comes before the morning prayer,
Yeah, he's sort of in the
Before Breslev.
We're going back to Exile.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. I want to learn something today which is very, very important. Because some people complain, why is everything so hard, Why is everything so hard? Okay, so I'm telling you before we go into it very strong, this is one of the strongest stories of Rabbi Nachman. This is from Rabbi Nachman, Manias. This is mamish to learn day and night, Manias means Mania means a disturbance, hold back.
What?
A hindrance. Preventing, obstacles, that's the word, obstacles, right? Sorry, my English. Rabbi Nachman says something very, very, very strong. Imagine so now, but the whole thing Rabbi Nachman was teaching us, deepest steps in the world, is that there are certain things which are so holy and so deep. My only vessel I have for this great light is the obstacle. That the vessel for this great light is the obstacle. Right? Tremendous. So if I see I want to do something and I have tremendous, it's the hardest thing to do it, Gewalt, that means God is giving you the greatest vessel in the world. Right? It's like, it's really ridiculous according to Nachman. Imagine, I want to do something. Imagine, I will want to give you $1 million, and I'm also giving you a pocketbook, right? So you'll say, oh, the pocketbook, oh, what are you cracking about? I'm giving you a pocketbook for $1 million. So when we see something comes on very hard, we turn around, we walk back. Crazy. Just be happy. If you see how hard it is, that means God wants to give it to you on the highest level. So what are you turning around? Okay, now let's learn it inside. It really turns my kishkis around when I see the way I look at myself, gewalt, Anything I was a bit hard, taking off. And here we are just, on the contrary, that means we are almost crazy, Yeah, what do you say, Holy Man?
I think to say that something's good because it's hard like that seems that
No, not always. I couldn't say this. Not, I did. Rabbi Nachman doesn't say anything.
Right, I know.
Yeah.
I understand. I think.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he said. I think like there's two things we can say. One is that good things are hard. The other thing is like hard things are good. You know what I mean? I think like when you're saying.
He doesn't say that hard things are good.
Right.
Because, listen to me, if something comes on hard, I know it's stupid in the first place, I will say because it comes on hard, I gotta do it. It's only when I want to do it and I know my heart is good, and I can't do it because it's so hard, then this is the sign, you're 100% right.
Right, but I mean, I think you have to be careful not to get into things.
So you have to have a good nose for that, right? You're 100% right, yeah. Assuming that you made Bar Mitzvah Psalm and B'Havdolah pretty strong, You see, Rabbi Nachman talks later on, sometimes when things go hard, it's maybe like a wee little sign, take your hands off, Sometimes, how should God let you know you shouldn't do it, Sometimes really God says, we're just, accomplished, wait, So when am I supposed to know, when God lets me know, accomplished, don't push? And sometimes God lets you know, gewalt, you better go full force, step on the gas, So the truth is, we have to learn the whole thing through, but Rabbi Nachman goes in very strong because this is the hardest thing to know. This is actually the secret of life. This is literally the secret of life. To know exactly when Rabbi Nachman calls it the Manias, to break the obstacles, and when to know that the obstacles are only there to lift me up, to make me stronger. So let's begin to learn from the beginning. Now listen to this. This is very strong. What happens to me when I have a strong obstacle? I want the thing more, I wish I could do it, right? How does an obstacle affect me inside? I want to do it more, right? That meaning the obstacle is really making me doing it right. Because if I wouldn't have an obstacle, I wouldn't do it. There was so much ḥeshek. How would you translate ḥeshek, strong? Desire. Yeah, what's even more? Yeah, desire. There's any stronger word than desire? There's no.
Strong desire.
Yeah. ḥeshek, taiva means desire. ḥeshek is even more than that. I don't know what. I have not heard yet the real good translation of the word ḥeshek. Means ḥeshek like.
Inclination?
No. It is passion also, but it's more than that. ḥeshek, I don't know, whatever it is. Just remember the word ḥeshek. Yeah, it includes all that, but it's even more. So just remember the word ḥeshek. He says, because this is the way man is, anything you stop a person from doing it, that's what he wants to do more. That's how man is. And he says when he has to do something, and his whole life depends on that, his whole Yiddishkeit depends on it, and like his coming to this world, his soul mission depends on that. So how does God help him to do it properly? God stops him from doing it. And he says, listen to this, it's really way out, So then he says something like this, if you see, you want to do something and you have a little obstacle, and you want to do it, and then the obstacle gets bigger, that means it's very, very strong, that means God wants you to do it even better. Because you have to realize one thing, if you do something with ḥeshek, then you're really doing it, right? Now I want you to listen to something very deep, like we were learning before, there's such a thing as beginning and complete and more than complete, So Rabbi Nachman says something very strong. There's such a thing as called min hakoyach el hapoel, from theory into reality, Koyach el hapoel, that's also very strong. Nachman always says, my soul was holy before I was born, right? but my soul is wholly on the level of theory, right? You know? But when I come to this world and I do it, that means my soul is wholly on the level of real, right? Although my soul was pretty real before, but it's not real, you know? On the Bapoi level, on the real level, on the doing level, it's not real. So Rav Nachman says, anything I do without ḥeshek, that means I didn't bring out my this realness of the soul which comes out when I do it, you know. Very strong, you know. Because Rav Nachman says, I'm only born to be min hakoyach al hapoel, to come out from the theory and to actually means how is it poel? Practice, yeah. But poel means more than practice. Poel, yeah, actually means practice. Yeah, exercise, something like that, yeah. It means so many things. That makes it so clear. So Rav Nachman says, in order to do it really on the real level, I can only do it real if I cannot do it, if it comes on hard. But if I would do it, it comes on very easy, it doesn't take anything out of me, then I'm still on the level like the soul was before it was born. Because the soul in heaven had no obstacles in serving God, right? The soul in heaven can do anything, right? So if I would come to this world and I do good things without obstacles, then I would not really be in this world. So the more I'm in this world, the more it comes on hard, the more I'm bringing out the depth of my soul.
If you had a good enough nose to tell the difference between things that are hard that you have to push through and things that are hard that you better keep away from, then wouldn't you have a good enough nose to know when you're doing something, whether it's something that's really from completely at the deepest part of you, or whether it's just something...
Yes, that's what he says, so good, you know, it's good, you know.
So what
do you have to say to us?
Obstacles?
No, because if you wouldn't have obstacles, you wouldn't do it for so much heart, for so much soul, right?
Well, you'd know, like when you're
you
doing
wouldn't,
it,
even if you know, knowing and doing is two things, right? I know a lot of things in my head. So you know, it still comes on hard, so I know I have to do it, but it's still gefällig hard, you know? Imagine, I know that I have to go barefoot to Los Angeles, I know I have to. But gewalt, when I'm walking, and after 10 hours, I know I have to walk about 2 more weeks barefoot, so all the knowing, I'm still walking, right? You know? Knowing and doing is pretty far, you know? When it comes to mamish, you see, to Rab Nachman, the most real thing in the world is if I mamish did it. You know, imagine, let's put it this way, let's say I tell you, I love you, right? Then you'll tell me, okay, if you love me, can you please do me a favor? You know? And you know, the way I love you when I'm doing you the favor is not the same I loved you before I did you the favor, right? Completely different level, right? Because it took so much out of me, right? Puts me in a completely different level, right? Let's say, for instance, if I want to put on tefillin, it comes on easy. That means that according to Rab Nachman, I didn't really put on tefillin yet, you know? But it breaks me into 2,000 pieces. About every morning I wake up, I don't want to put the tefillin on, right? And I have so much trouble in doing it. And I don't want to, and everything comes on, I have to go to school, I have to go to business, 10,000 reasons, not? And yet I'm putting them on, gewalt, when I put them on, I'm really putting them on, you know? And it maybe only once in my life it came on hard. That means that one time I really put them on, you know? Or let's say every Shabbos comes on easy, you know? That means I wasn't really keeping Shabbos yet, you know? But if once in my life, because my soul is born to do things, you know? Not to think of things, because in heaven I understand things deeper, you know? Yeah, what do you want to say again? You start saying something, you know?
Yeah, well, finish.
Yeah. No, that's it.
I don't know, like, I don't go along with that, like, because I think there's two things. I think, like, the breaking your heart to do something, like, that sounds good. But I don't think, but what that means to me is, like, doing something where, like, you really bring everything that you have, where, like, you bring, like, all your joy and all your pain to it, and, like, you just really, you know, like, really do it.
That's true, yeah.
But what I don't like so much, or don't go along with so much, is is just like because something's hard to do. I don't know, like putting on tefillin, because you don't want to do it, and therefore you get to do it. That makes it any greater.
Yeah, you see, I told you it's up to your nose. You see, I said I'll leave it up to your nose. That I said before, you know. Yeah, you see, I don't know. You see, maybe sometimes. You see, I don't know. You see, I'm talking on my level. You know, everybody. But I just said before, it's your nose, right? After all the Torahs, I cannot tell you what to do, and nobody can tell anybody else. It's just your nose. But regardless, whatever it is, you know, whatever levels you know that you want to do something. Okay, let's say you don't want to put on tefillin, you're Shabbos. But if you decide, this Shabbos I'm going to be strong on Shabbos, and it comes from very hard, you know, and you still do it, and you mamash feel the holiness of Shabbos, you know, you'll really get to the Shabbos, right? What?
Because it seems to me that a lot of Jewish upbringing, it's even in Protestant upbringing, that people should do things just because of it.
Yeah, I told you, this is what Nachman says, you know. I told you before, he never said this, you know. He doesn't start saying anything which comes from hard, do it. He doesn't say that, you know. He says, when I want to do something and I know it's good, right, and then it comes on so hard, that means God is helping me to do it better. That's all he's saying, you know. I put my heart into something and I know I have to do it and I want to do it. On even later on he talks. What?
He's really making it worthwhile for you. He's not necessarily advocating.
What?
I think the way that it makes sense to me is, like the way that I can make it have sense for myself, is that to do something with your whole being means to do with the parts of your being that don't come easy. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I know what you mean.
To like do it with everything.
Yeah.
You know, and to
So Nachman says, in order to do it with everything, God helps me to make it hard. Because if it would be so easy.
But he's saying that like we're given an opportunity to use everything.
You have to get. He says, without ḥeshek, listen to me. Listen to this. I'll say it once more. So, friends, open your ears, folks. He says like this: Gechein derech ha'odam. This is the way of man. Shekol ma shemonim oisei yosem ezidover hu ḥeshek b'yosel asayis. Man is like this. When he wants to do something, then he can't do it. Then he really wants to do it. Then it says, therefore he says, if a Jew wants to do something for his Yiddishkeit, or he wants to do something where he knows his soul mission depends on it, so how does God help him to do it completely? By putting obstacles in his way. Because then he really wants to do it, you know?
Then if he puts all his energy into
then he's really doing it. Then he's really doing it. You see, because then his soul comes down from the level of theory to the level of practice. You know? It's very beautiful, you know, it's just so deep. But therefore he says, when you want to do something holy, when you want to be closer to the tzaddikim, or you want to be closer to anything holy, and then suddenly, he says like this, because before you wanted to do it, there was no obstacles in doing it, you know? He says before you thought of doing it, if you would have done it then before you thought of doing it, you could have done it without obstacles. It's only that very instant that you decide that you want to do it, that God helps you and puts obstacles in your way. And this is a sign that God gives you an opportunity to do it. He says, and if a person would only stop and think, he can realize, Gewalt, how great is the thing that I want to do, that God is so much like giving me, thank God, so many obstacles. Because he said you have to know one thing, there is nothing a person cannot overcome. He said there is no obstacle in the way, there is no such thing as obstacle. There is no obstacle. It is only the question is how much you want to do it. If you really want to do it, there's no obstacle. The obstacle is only there to make you really want it. And if you really, really want it, there is no obstacle.
Yeah, it's like in order
order to really do something, you have to be one with the doing, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like ordinarily we don't really realize it because ordinarily we're all divided. It's like they're compartments. And one compartment, one person that lives in one compartment doesn't really know the person that lives in the other. They all have to get together, you know, and realize that they're really all living in the same house. And then they can accomplish.
There's a fire, yeah? No, when there's a fire, and all the people in the house get together.
Yeah. But it's something.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You know what I used to think was, he was talking about how hard it is sometimes for people from the house to emigrate to Israel to stay there. And it seems like to go to Israel, you have to really,
in the world.
yeah, unless you really, really want to be there with all your heart and soul,
You can stay there.
Israel just like throws you out, almost, you know, just spews
wipes you
out.
out, yeah. The same as learning, you know, if you really don't want to learn with all your heart, then you'll never learn.
Maybe that's the problem. You pick the words.
So he says like this, if you want to do something, then you didn't do it and you say, I was forced not to do it. I want to do it with all my heart and I couldn't do it. He says, I'm sorry to tell you, he says, you're just fooling yourself. What?
I think one thing I kind of got left with David with what he said. This, like, I think also we have to talk about different kinds of wanting. You know, like there's, I forget exactly how it goes, something I think in Prague about when a person runs after kavod, then it runs away from him. And but if he doesn't, then it runs after him.
Yeah.
So I think like it depends on like what kind of wanting it is, whether it's like ego wanting or attached. If it's like selfish wanting, then you'll never get it.
No, that's true, you know, that's a pretty good thought, you understand? Because right now, let's say, for instance, I will say if someone is wants money all the time, you know, and it comes on hard, it is really God wants him to get more money, therefore makes it hard on him, you know. I definitely won't say that, you know. Because maybe God really wants to stop him. Would you please stop running after money, you know? The only way of making him stop, God puts like a little stop sign on the way, you know. So he would say, Gewalt, Nachman taught me, if there's a stop sign, that means I should go stronger, you know. So Rabbi Nachman always talks only when you know in your heart that your whole life depends. Keys. Oh, wait a minute. What's going on? If a person lives a very unspiritual, very cross life all his life, then suddenly one morning he decides he wants to become a little better. Then God in His mercy puts a lot of obstacles in his way. So if he remains a fool, he turns around. And if he has a little bit sense, he realizes, thank God, I have one way of cleansing myself from my non-spirituality I did all my life. It's because when you think, if you're not spiritual all your life, the next morning you wake up and suddenly you're spiritual, you're holy. The only way of cleansing yourself is to harmonish getting over it. So if God makes it, if all the obstacles, then it's the sign God is helping you, putting you on the road.
No, I was just going to say, it's very, you know, it's suggested that one of the keys to memory is association. You know, when you want to think of one thing, you got to think of another thing.
Yeah.
And so interest and obstacle is just really God's association for letting us remember where we were, where we've been.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's sort of a physical place to the mental plane of memory.
Huh. It's pretty good, Danny. Tough man. Now he says something else, also very, very strong. How do you overcome the obstacles? Okay, so Rabbi Nachman says, there's no obstacle you cannot overcome. But how do you really get to the level? What do you do, you know? So he says, anything you want to do in the world, anything holy and good, especially if you know that your whole life, your soul life depends on it, you have to know one thing, that I am the only person in the world. As much as sometimes you have to care for the whole world, but there are moments when a person has to know, I am the only person in the world. It's just me and God. At least when it comes to my soul life, it's just me and God. There's not a person in the world who can stop it. There's nothing in the world who can stop it. Because it's just between me and God. And if I lift up myself to the level that it's just me and God, then there's no obstacle. He says something very, very beautiful. You know, it says in Isaiah, Abraham was one. You know, it means there was nobody like Abraham. So he says, Rabbi Nachman translates it very beautiful. It means Abraham was one. Abraham, how did he get to his path? Because he always knew, I'm the only one, right? It's really a good translation, you know. Abraham went to God because it was only me in the world, you know. As much as Abraham cared for the whole world. But when it comes to do what he had to do, it was only one. And then especially he says, so many people want to talk you out of what you have to do, you know. You listen to every creed. He says, if you stood on the path of listening to other people, then you'll never get there. The only way of completely not listening is because there's nobody else in the world but I. He says, and he counts, and it's very strong. He says, not your father, not your mother, not your father-in-law, not your mother-in-law, and not your wife. It's very strong, you know. Holy Rebbe. Yeah, the presence of the Lord is manifest with you around. What's going on? I thought you went to Sing Sing to visit the soul brother.
You're right. Same question.
What?
I'm the same question.
Yeah? Yeah, no, but whatever the name is here. I told you kids when I went to visit one of my soul brothers here in prison, and he taught there all the prisoners, avinu chai, you know? So when I walk into prison, everybody got saying, chai, you know? And some black brothers was okay, now listen very, very carefully. You know, this is a good word to remember. There's such a thing as koyach, you know, which means strength. Then there's such a thing as gevur, means power. Koyach means power, gevur means strength. And then there's such a thing as omets. Moshe's Yeshua chazak ve'emotz. Chazak means strong, and omens, you know what omens means? Omens means that I'm absolutely not afraid of anything in the world. You know, okay, courage is one translation. But Nachman translates, omens means that I am on that level that I'm the only one in the world. I'm so strong. Take the greatest strength in the world, you know? To be on the level that I'm the only one in the world. That's Omet Halev. It's called Omet. He says, if you reach the level of Omet Halev, he says, then there is nothing in the world which can make you deviate from your path. You gone already?
Yeah.
So when will I see you, man?
Yes, Shabbos.
I'll see you for Shabbos, yeah. Good. Here you go now. Back to your thing. Peace, Lord. Peace, brother. Then he says something very, very strong. If you reach the level of Omet Halev, what's the story? If you reach the level of Omet Halev, he says, then there is not only people cannot turn you away, it's places. He says this is a very strong thing. In certain places we are not strong enough to do what we have to do. Because the places also have a tremendous influence on us. He says, but if he says something very, very beautiful way out. He says, what kind of a place can turn you off in your right path? He says, a place which has no heart, right? But if you reach the level of Ometz Halev, that your heart is so strong and so just all alone, then you put heart into this place. So this very place cannot turn you away. It is because if you have this heart, then all the places of the world are with you. What? I'll read it to you in Hebrew. Gam kshiyesh la'odam lev, ein shemokim shemnei avodas yisbach. If you have this strong heart, if you have this real heart, you know. Wait, let me think of it. What it really means. I think it's really very strong stuff. Okay, once more. If you really have this strong heart, then there is no place in the world which can prevent you from doing your service, what you have to do. And there is no excuse in the world. Because when you have this heart, that all the places of the world are with you. It's only if you have no heart, then there are places which help you and places which prevent you. But if you have this real heart, all the places of the world are with
Is
you.
there any arbitrary definition of helpful places and non-helpful places?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
Is there any arbitrary rule for what is a helpful place and what is not a helpful place?
No, he doesn't say it.
How you react.
He left it up to Danny, he didn't tell me. Huh? Now he says something like this. After you did it, right? After you broke through all the obstacles and you did this holy thing, then he says, from every thought which you had against it, and every obstacle you had against it, he says, like great lights beginning to surround you. Like they're all with you, you know? Listen to this. You know what he means to say? It's not only to break the obstacle and put it aside, you know? Imagine if there's a big stone here in my way, I push the stone aside. He says, this is not the point. The point is to take the stone with you, in a very deep way. Because if you just overcome the obstacle and you throw it away, then it didn't do its job either, you know? You got to take the stone with you. He says, and this stone, in a very deep, holy spiritual level, is like the holiest thing on top of your head, you know? That means it gives this thing you're doing, this kind of holy completeness, which nobody can give but this very stone who stopped you. Anybody wants to explain it?
I don't know how it fits, but it sounds almost like a Shemitah ran across one of Emerson's essays where he talks about a little bottle. If you throw it in the ocean, the pressure of the ocean will crush it. But if you take that same water and fill the bottle with it, it counteracts the pressure outside.
Sounds good.
It's, like it's the same water inside and outside of the bottle, but
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, but I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
I think it has to do with using everything instead of just casting certain things aside.
Very ecological, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just using everything,
Do you have to go into the stone? Like it's not just, let's say there's some good thing, I'm better not do this or don't get near this, and I just get near it anyway? Or do you I have to carry the stone with you? Do you have to be really...
You don't have to carry the stone with you, but if you really do it with all your heart, then the stone goes after you, you know?
It reminds me of the old story about the man who went to the rabbi and wanted to know how to make his house bigger, and so he invited the man to bring in all his animals with him.
Yeah,
And so then, then the house reverted to what its previous state was, and so in a way that the man took all his animals with him in stone.
Yeah.
And then, but he saw it.
That's also pretty good. Yeah? But I don't think this is yet what Rav Nachman wants to say. It's all good, but this isn't the utmost yet. Anybody wants to say it in a better way? Okay, I'll translate it once more. If a person wants to do something and he says, and I hope he did it, he said, despite that he had all the obstacles and all the confusions and like perversions in his head, he didn't know what to do, but he did it. Obviously, he did it. He said, then from all this confusion, from all the thoughts they had against, and from all the obstacles they had, he says something very holy happens to him. He says, and this all becomes like a crown on his head. Happy is the one, he says, who breaks all the obstacles, he jumps over them, and then he finishes all the obstacles in a very holy ending. And then he says, because you have to realize that obstacles are not, the truth is they're only obstacles when you're not sure yet that you have to do it. The very moment that you really know you got to do it, then every obstacle is the greatest help. So when you reach that level, when you really do it, then how can you, then the obstacle helped you, then you take them with you, they're going with you, they helped you. And the moment they helped you, then the moment you did it,
Should something like, say, if you want to build a house, and there are all of these stones, you're going to build a house of stones, and there are all of these stones that in a sense you might say they're obstacles because they're heavy, but just the fact that you can lift them and build a house with them strengthens you, So you have the house, and then you also have the strength from lifting the stones. I don't know if that's what he said.
That's good. You know what flashed through my mind? I thought of Rus Alexandrovich, I don't know if you're turned on to her, Rus Alexandrovich, this girl from Russia, A girl in Riga, her mother, completely assimilated family. One day, somehow she got a little Bible in Russian, and she liked the book, and suddenly she was turned on to being Jewish, She got underground little Hebrew book, and she started learning Hebrew on her own, and the way they did it, they were mimeographing and giving out little sheets in Hebrew. Anyway, I'm sure you know the story. She wanted to go to Israel. She was arrested before her wedding, and she has a little bit TB, not exactly, but a little bit. Okay, she was 1 year in Siberia, and she came to Israel. So imagine this girl, the way she goes to Israel, Why Siberia? She really gets to Israel, right? Here, I'm walking in, going to a travel agency, get myself a little ticket, I'm coming to Israel. How do I get to Israel? What do I taste from Yerushalayim? How do I stand by the Holy Wall, She, Mamash, went by Siberia with all those tremendous obstacles. Unbelievable, And she comes to the Holy Wall to pray, Then sure, every breath she took in Siberia was helping her, right? In the most unbelievable way.
This
really hard for Rebbe Nachman to get these guys from us?
What?
It was really hard for Rebbe Nachman.
Gefährlich, yeah, because he went through he went to, there was a war between the war of Napoleon, was going on during that time. He went to Israel. And the whole world was in war. And, one day he was fighting on the side of Napoleon, one time on the other side. He wasn't really fighting, but he had to pretend because he was walking the whole time, And he walked right through the four fronts, So when he was in Napoleon, he was taking a little gun and standing there and pretending he's one of the soldiers there, They didn't know each other. Then he managed to get to the other side. He was standing there and fooling around a little bit. Then he kept on going, He was only 19 years old when he went on this journey, It took him half a year to get there.
19 years old?
He was 19 years old, See, Rabbi Nachman became a Rebbe when he was 14. Remember I told you, when he was 14 he was a Rebbe. So from 14 to 19 he was a very top Rebbe in the world. And then he went to Israel. It took him half a year to get there. Everybody told him, you're crazy, you'll never get there. Unbelievable.
He died when he was 36.
He was 37, One says 37, 38 or 39. In between. Rabbi Nachman said that every morning when he woke up, he was mamish dead, spiritually. Like all the work he'd done all his life was always taken away from him. And he had to start all over again every morning. He says, thank God, he says, nothing ever came on easy on him, When he was going to Cheder, Mamash's head was so heavy, as much as later on he was Mamash's top genius in the world, But at the beginning, everything came on hard. He wanted to learn Aleph Beis, it didn't go to his head. Mamash had to cry over every letter, that you should remember it. Then he was learning Gemara, didn't go into his head, Mamash nothing. And the rabbis were beating him up, and they said, you're nothing. Then he would run into the Besmadish with the Gemara, Mamash cry over every word, till he understood it. Then he Mamash did, He says, I want you to know one thing, he says, which is very important. What's the difference between man and angels? Angels are also serving God. But angels have no obstacles. That's the whole thing. Man has obstacles. And the more the person is needed in the world, the more the person is the person, the more he has obstacles. And the more he is part of fixing the whole world, the more like the whole world, like the holy tzaddikim who are fixing the whole world, on their path, they're the greatest obstacles in the world. So he says that we see even on a physical level, to make bread comes on very hard, right? To plow it. So much work, right? For a little bread. Which is just one of man's needs, right? He says, how long does it take to make a little garment, right? So hard, right? How much more, he says, to fix one little part of your soul. Not bread, your soul.
So,
yeah?
Drew, you were talking about how there's two different kinds of something wrong. There's something wrong that you're doing, there's something wrong that's really wrong inside of you that you have to fix, that you're made that way. So do the obstacles ever come from that very inside wrong, or are they always obstacles from the outside wrong?
You're talking about outside, you mean that inside obstacles and outside obstacles? No. Yeah, sure.
You remember what I was saying about you know what I'm talking about? When you
start over again.
Everybody is made with something wrong, and it's up to them to fix it.
Yaakov says everybody has missing something that she doesn't have.
To fix. So do the obstacles come from that missing place, Or the obstacles come from just the things that you're doing wrong, that are not like inherent in your being, but just...
That's a really good question, no? Huh.
So it's not just a matter of inside obstacles and outside obstacles, because something that seems like an outside obstacle could really be coming from inside you.
I like to have to think of it, I don't know. What do you think it?
I didn't skip the question.
So you want to go down?
It's really good.
Well, you have to help me with the concept. That when each person has within them something that's missing or not complete, or something that Hashem gives them that they have to fix, that's their way of really becoming one, and really becoming Hashem. So what I'm asking Shlomo is, when he talks about the obstacles is the source of the obstacles that flaw inside yourself, or there's also something wrong with you, just you're doing things wrong, you're not seeing clearly, your nose isn't so good. But those are like peripheral flaws, it's not central. So there could be obstacles that are like outside obstacles.
Your own weakness, or is it something that's laid on?
That too, but also on a deeper level. Like it's easy to say, well, I really wanted to do it, but somebody stopped me. Like today, this morning we learned about somebody wanted to do something, and the police came with a gun. Oh, we wanted to say the Shema. David mentioned somebody really wanted to say the Shema, and somebody came with a gun and said, "You can't say the Shema, I'll kill you." So there was like outside obstacle, completely not related to what was going on inside him, that stopped him from doing what he wanted to do. It didn't come from the central. But that's like a really easy one to see. It's an easy obstacle to see. But some of the obstacles are like
maybe it's like what we were talking about earlier, in knowing, having the nose to know when you should try real hard and when perhaps give up is not for you.